BikesOnline is the place to get yourself a great deal on a new e-MTB. In fact, we have so many of them that it might be a bit tricky trying to figure out which is best for you. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down two of our most affordable options, the Polygon Siskiu T7E and the Intense 951 E-Xplore, to help you decide which is best for you. We'll take a look at their respective e-drive systems, frame design, components, and of course get into how they feel out on the trail. But before we get started, let me know what comparison you'd like to see us do next. Both the T7E and the E-Xplore feature drive systems from one of the most respected brands in the cycling industry, Shimano. Shimano's motors are known for their smooth power delivery, ease of use, and reliability. Speaking of power delivery, each bike can be set in one of three assistance level modes: Eco, Trail, and Boost. And every one of those modes can be fine-tuned using Shimano's eTube app to make sure that you get the bike set up for exactly how you want it to feel on the trail. There are, however, some differences when we look at the specific motors found on each bike. The T7E comes with Shimano's top-tier EP801 motor, whereas the Intense gets the next tier down, E7000. The EP801 delivers 85 Nm of torque compared to the E7000's 60 Nm, which is definitely noticeable on steep sections of trail. Despite the added power, the EP801 motor is actually a bit lighter than the EP7000 motor, which is one of the things that makes the T7E about 13 pounds or 5.9 kilograms lighter than the E-Xplore. In addition to having a more powerful motor, the Polygon also has a larger 630 watt-hour battery as opposed to the 504 watt-hour battery on the Intense. This gives the Polygon a longer range, meaning you can ride further between charges. So when it comes to drive systems, the more powerful, longer range Polygon definitely comes out on top. But to be honest, some of that stuff might be so nuanced that depending on what your use case is, you might not even really notice it. What's going to be just as important, and in some cases maybe even more important, are the specific frame features and geometry found on both of these bikes. Both bikes are built around aggressive, overbuilt aluminum frames, making them perfect for everything from aggressive trail riding or just exploring your local fire roads. They also both have internal cable routing, water bottle mounts in the front triangle, and all the modern standards you'd expect to find from a performance-oriented e-MTB. The Intense, however, takes this a step further and combines the aforementioned more mountain bike-specific things with some utilitarian features that are usually reserved for more city or urban bikes. For instance, it comes with full coverage fenders front and rear, a custom rack with storage bags that attach to it, and even lights that wire directly to the bike's main battery. Obviously, this may be a moot point for some, but if you're looking for a bike that you can take on trail rides on the weekend and then use as a commuter during the weekdays, the Intense 951 E-Xplore is a really good and honestly pretty unique option. Let's move on now and talk about the suspension and geometry numbers found on both these bikes, which play a really large part in how each one handles on the trail. The Polygon Siskiu T7E is built around 29-inch wheels front and rear and has 140 millimeters of travel out back paired with a 150 millimeter fork. It gets slightly more conservative geometry numbers than the Intense, boasting a 65.5 degree head tube angle and 76 degree seat tube angle. This helps with slow speed handling, like when climbing or navigating technical sections of trail, but at the same time, its relatively long chainstays and wheelbase help keep it stable on the descents. The Intense 951 E-Xplore, on the other hand, leans more towards the all-mountain or even enduro category. It has the same 140 millimeters of rear wheel travel, but bumps the fork up to 160 millimeters. It also has a slacker 64.5 degree head tube angle and steeper 77 degree seat tube angle, perfect for riding steeper, more aggressive terrain. To help keep such a big bike a bit more nimble and maneuverable, Intense specs all sizes of the bike with 27.5-inch wheels. Speaking of sizes, the E-Xplore is only available in two of them, small/medium and large/extra large, as opposed to more traditional 4 sizes offered on the T7E. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to take a look at the geometry numbers and align them to a bike that you currently have and like the size of to make sure you'll be able to get something that fits well for you. For reference, I usually ride a size large bike. I'm on the large/extra large, and it is a bit longer than I tend to prefer and am more used to. So just keep that in mind if you're leaning more towards the Intense. Next, let's talk components. And while there are some specific highs and lows on each bike, I'm thankful to say that there are no real standout weaknesses on either one. In terms of suspension, the T7E comes with a 150mm SR Suntour Ions 35 fork paired to a Tri-Air 2 shock, which are a perfect fit for the well-rounded geometry of the bike. The Intense, on the other hand, has been spec'd with DVO suspension front and rear. It gets a 160mm Diamond E3 fork made specifically for e-bikes and a Jade R coil shock. The boost and travel up front, paired with the plush, sensitive nature of the coil shock, makes for an impressively smooth ride on the descents, but more on that in a sec. In terms of group sets, the Polygon comes with Shimano's 12-speed SLX drivetrain, one of the smoothest shifting options on the market. The Intense has a slightly lower tier 11-speed Dior group set, which should provide much of the same shifting performance, but with a bit narrower gear range. That said, the decreased number of gears won't be nearly as impactful on your riding on a powerful e-bike like this as it would be on an analog trail bike. In terms of brakes, the Polygon comes with a pair of ultra-powerful Code Rs from SRAM, which should be more than enough for even the fastest of trails. The TRP Trail Evo brakes on the Intense weren't quite as powerful in my experience, but still offer great lever feel and a consistent bite point. In terms of the rest of the components, the touch points on both of these bikes are equally dialed. They both have dropper seat posts, riser bars, and comfortable grips right out of the box. Lastly, let's go over wheels and tires. The Polygon Siskiu T7E comes with a pair of 29-inch Entity wheels wrapped in 2.6-inch Schwalbe Hansdampf tires. The Intense, on the other hand, gets a set of 27.5-inch WTB wheels with some chunky 2.8 Maxxis Recons. So in the end, in terms of components, I am going to have to give the win to the Polygon, but only by a small margin, and that's mostly due to the powerful brakes. But really, I'm just splitting hairs here. The components on both bikes are outstanding, especially considering their low price. But I'd say that's enough technical bits for this video. Let's get on to the important stuff, which is how they feel on the trail. But before we do, if you're liking this video so far, why don't you just, hit that like button. In terms of climbing, both bikes offer a comfortable riding position. I was nervous that the longer reach on the Intense would make me feel a bit too stretched out, but the steeper seat tube angle let the geometry difference go essentially unnoticed on the climbs. What was, however, noticeable right off the bat was the difference in power between both the bikes. The Polygon's Shimano EP801 motor delivered a punchier feel, making technical sense and steep pitches feel much easier. It also responds quicker to pedal input, so when you need an instant boost to clear a tricky section, the T7E is ready to deliver. Meanwhile, the E-Xplore, with its E7000 motor, still provides a solid and steady assistance, but it requires a bit more effort when tackling steeper gradients. When it comes to traction, both bikes do well in their own regard. The Polygon's 29-inch wheels roll over obstacles more efficiently and maintain speed better on long climbs, whereas the Intense's 27.5-inch wheels and wider 2.8-inch tires, combined with the sensitive coil shock, offer loads of grip, especially on loose or uneven terrain. So if you're the type of rider who values maneuverability or just more assistance on the climbs, then the Polygon's probably a better option. But if you want maximal grip and comfort, then the Intense is going to take the cake. Once pointed downward, the difference in suspension travel and geometry became even more apparent. The 951, with its longer travel 160mm fork, plush coil shock, and slacker 64.5-degree head tube angle, absolutely rips when the trail gets steep and rough. It feels composed on fast descents and encourages you to push harder. That is until it gets overly tight or technical. The slightly underpowered brakes require a bit more time to slow the bike down, and once you do, its portly weight and long wheelbase make it tricky to maneuver at slower speeds. It's also far from what I would call a poppy or playful bike. It's a type of bike that wants to plow straight through things rather than float or dance on top of it. And imagine that some of this comes down to the frame size. As I've already talked about, I sized up to the large/extra large, which is a bit longer than I'm used to. But if you sized down and you just happen to fit in Intense's sizing in that regard, then I think it would be a bit more maneuverable in those types of situations. I also alluded to this earlier, but the plus-size tires found on the Intense did take some time to get used to and can feel a bit squirmy at first, but once you learn to trust them, they add an extra level of damping and grip that I really appreciated. The Polygon Siskiu T7E, on the other hand, feels a bit more balanced overall. Its slightly steeper head tube angle and 29-inch wheels make it more predictable and stable in a wide variety of conditions. While it doesn't quite match the bottomless feel of the Intense, it still handles that chunky terrain pretty dang well. And it's also a good bit lighter, which makes it easier to maneuver at slower speeds and flick around in the air. Again, some of this probably comes down to frame size differences, but the Polygon does seem to have some sort of special sauce that makes it feel much more lively and playful than you'd expect for a 50+ pound bike. So, which of these affordable e-MTBs is best for you? Well, really, it's going to come down to your priorities. If you're looking for the most powerful motor, longest range, and a well-balanced ride that can tackle everything from technical climbs to fast descents, then the Polygon Siskiu T7E is the clear winner. It's lighter, more agile, and packs higher-end components. However, if you're looking for a more aggressive, borderline enduro e-MTB that also has the utilitarian features of a commuter bike, then the Intense 951 really is a solid option. It may be heavier and slightly less powerful, but its plush suspension, grippy tires, and built-in commuter-friendly features make it a great option for riders who want versatility beyond just a trail bike. It's honestly an extremely unique bike, and one that I'm super stoked to have in the BikesOnline catalog. I've left a link to each of these bikes in the description, where you can get more information on their components, geometry, drive units, and of course, purchase the bike if you're ready to do that. If you have any more questions about either of these bikes that aren't answered there or in this video, then I'd love to help you out with that in the comments. You can leave those there. Before you get out of here, I'd appreciate it if you take a second to like this video and subscribe to the BikesOnline YouTube channel. And finally, after you've done that, grab your bike, whatever it is, get out there and get ripping.